Malaysian government has touted technical and vocational education as a game changer to address labour market problems, many challenges remain. Now, the International Labour Organization has identified some of these challenges. They've identified foreseeing future skills demand, harmonizing the technical vocational education and technical governance or TVET governance systems, promoting equity and inclusion, as well as enhancing industry engagement. So in the face of the economic downturn and the low wages that we're seeing, especially for university graduates, is this time we rethink our education system with perhaps a greater emphasis on TVET? Joining us on the show tonight from the International Labour Organization, we have Dr. Junichi Mori. He's the Chief Technical Advisor for the ILO Skills for Prosperity program in Malaysia. Junichi, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm just wondering, the ILO's Skills for Prosperity program, I'm just wondering how effective that program has been in its objectives, in improving employability, in improving employment opportunities, as well as the earning potential of the Malaysian worker.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me today. So I guess your question is how our program is effective. So our program started in the last year, and then we've been working with our government partners, and then also our partner from the UK very closely. So at this stage, we have been working with the employers' organizations and workers' organization too. So simply, what we try to do is, first of all, try to enhance the information collections about the demand side and then the supply side of the skills. And then we try to reflect what employer want to the TVET program in Malaysia. So we still have a long way to go. So I wouldn't say it's very, we still have a long way to make a result. So we have a lot of work to do at this moment.
Right.
We're trying to work hard, yeah.
So, Junichi, let's talk about the fact that for governments, they're looking essentially at the supply side, because that's where they can intervene in the schooling system and in terms of the curriculum. Before we get to the question of demand and, the necessary investments and where jobs are actually being created, could you give us a sense of the ILO's assessment of the existing TVET system that we have in Malaysia? Sorry, Junichi, did you hear my question?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
now we can.
Yeah. So about your question, actually, Malaysia has a quite good reputation. Malaysia's TVET system has very good reputation as a model in the region. I've been working I used to work for Vietnam quite a long time. And then even I brought my colleague from Vietnam to Malaysia to do a study tour in Malaysia, just go to visit the TVET institutions, and actually we're quite impressed. So actually the Malaysian TVET system is quite good at this moment, but simply it is necessary to go to the next stage. I think many policies are available. TVET institutions are working very hard, but simply there are still many things to do, enhancing the engagement with industry and then grasp the current and future needs.
All right. I liked what you said about information collection, especially on the demand side and the supply side, because that's what you need. You need the information to know where reforms are needed. Can you tell us what you found? I mean, what is it that Malaysian industry need? What kind of skills does Malaysian industry need at the moment?
Yeah, thank you. So of course, the skills needs is changing very quickly because of the new technologies that are there. I think Industry 4.0 is famous. Internet of Things is famous. So basically, employer need people who can deal with those new skills, to promote automation, also to maintain automation equipment. But that's not the end of the stories. Actually, many employers, of course, need people who have new skills, but also a basic or generic or core skills. That's something don't change over the time. Problem solving, engineering designing, and then like some basic statistics and then mathematics knowledge. Those skills are still quite relevant. Also, I think Malaysian employers still need people who are quite disciplined and then hardworking too. So it's a mixture. So they need a new skills, but also they also need a core skills or generic skills.
Junichi, you point to one of the perhaps most bewildering questions for any person trying to solve the issue of work in the future, is that the future is essentially unpredictable, and we see so many disruptive technologies coming by, changing the way in which work is organized. How do TVET institutions deal with that? Should they be doing it on an institutional basis? Should this be a question of government oversight, trying to organize and coordinate responses to a changing future job landscape? How should it ideally work?
Okay, so I said the skills are changing, but first of all, Industry 4.0 or new technology sometimes sounds scary, but I would propose we shouldn't scare too much. There's something new, but there's something not changed too much too. So of course, the new technologies are there, but let's look at mechanical engineering, electronic control, or electric engineering. Some existing skills are simply utilized or applied to the new technologies. So TVET institution, of course, they should incorporate some new technologies, but also it is very important to improve the quality of the basic skills which is already available and then applicable to even new technologies. But of course, TVET program need to be improved continuously. For this, future is unknown, but continuous conversation with employers are very important. Right. Of course, we need a survey or study, but just daily conversations, this is very important.
Right. Junichi, Germany has been touted to have one of the best TVET education systems in the world. It's, vocational skills are highly prized in German society. I'm just wondering what they've done right there and what we can perhaps learn.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, of course, Germany is very famous for the dual training system. I think particularly what characteristic of the German system is they have a very strong chamber of commerce. They act as an intermediary between the government and the employers and the worker and student. So that's very important point. Also, because of the, of course, partially because of the quality of training, but TVET graduates are highly respected in Germany, and then they are getting a good social status, but also the economic status. So this is something, of course, very important, and then many countries can learn. But I just want to emphasize, we cannot simply imitate what Germany has done. So it is very important to find out a Malaysian model.
That's true. I agree. I mean, every country has its local context. But I'm just wondering, you said that in Germany, TVET graduates are highly respected. Is that something that you're seeing reflected in Malaysia, in other countries within Southeast Asia, within the region?
Well, yeah, actually, this is could be a problem in Malaysia, but also a problem in many other countries in Southeast Asia too. For example, again, I used to work in Vietnam quite long, but university graduate highly respected. On the other hand, TVET graduate are not fully respected, so that's a problem in many countries. So I think, of course, the quality of the skill will be one issue. But the social recognition, wage could be another issue.
Right. Yeah, indeed, wages, I think, are probably one of the leading reasons why parents perhaps would like their kids to get into a university program rather than a vocational one. Junichi, help us understand, if I understand your reports correctly, ILO suggests a focus on manufacturing and construction as the key sectors for which TVET should pivot to or focus on. Is that correct? And if that's true, why so?
Well, yeah, okay. Actually, the ILO focus on the various sectors. Simply, we are implementing the project in Malaysia, then our project focus on manufacturing and then the construction sector. So it doesn't mean that the ILO is thoroughly focusing on these two sectors. We are focusing on these two sectors because of the growth potential, but also the high potential for the promotion of the gender equality and social inclusion. In the manufacturing sector, there's a food processing industry, so many female workers are working. Then we basically think that there's a potential for more participation of the female workers, and then further career progression of the female workers in those sectors. Yeah.
Junichi, if there was a policy recommendation that you could make that was, as it were, low-hanging fruit for any government to implement soon, what would that be?
Okay. Well, actually, it's a quite challenging question because our project itself is still in the early stage. But the low-hanging fruit, what I think is the Malaysian government has actually issued a lot of the policy, which is a good one. So what we need to look at is more about implementations, or how to materialize those policies, or how to make those policies work. And if it's not working, why it's not working. And then it's good to identify together with the industry and then also work as representative. That's what we can do. And then I think Malaysia also provided a vision of the industrial development and skills development. Well, I think the policy is quite good, but it's really good to go one step further together with, again, like employers in a more concrete way, and then make sure that the vision is shared with everybody.
All right. Junichi, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight and sharing your insights, and good luck with the program. Sounds like you're doing good work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good night.
We'll be back with more on this topic in just a few minutes, so make sure you stay tuned to consider this.
Ke depan saya maju. Induknya adalah Melayu.
Balik kepada Islam. Orang yang membuat polisi.
Kalau itu yang dikehendaki, fine. Mungkin kita berbeza pandangan.
Tapi kita mempunyai kuasa yang boleh menentukan budaya di masa hadapan.
Polisi yang mesra wanita sudah tentu dia akan datang daripada pemimpin wanita.
Perang COVID-19 masih belum berakhir. Dalam kita berusaha memutuskan rantaian wabak ini, kita jangan terpedaya dengan virus maklumat palsu. Simak fakta melalui www.astroawani.com atau aplikasi Astro Awani. Teruskan berdisiplin, ratakan lengkungan pandemik ini.
The third wave of COVID-19 has taken us by storm. There's no room to take anything lightly. Everyone must follow all the steps to stop the spread of COVID-19. Social distancing, face mask, follow these steps, this SOP with the utmost discipline. Together, we can flatten the curve.
Bila sentuh soal berita, tiada masa untuk tunggu. Kepada anda kami bawakan fakta, susulan dan kupasan yang terkini. Tiada drama dan tiada pengulangan. Usah tunggu lama-lama. Awani 745 lebih awal dari biasa.
Kini berwajah baru.
Ini pula susulan khas pesawat Back Air di Kazakhstan. Pesawat berkenaan dilaporkan tergelincir 2 kali.
Notifikasi berita terkini dan navigasi mudah. Podcast dikemas kini dengan berita dan program.
Rebirth, reformasi. Hi, thanks so much for staying with us. You're watching Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, with me, Sharaad Kuttan. Let's continue our discussion about vocational education and if it can truly address Malaysia's labour market problems. Dr. Norlidah Alias joins us now. She is an associate professor with the Department of Curriculum and Instructional Technology with the Faculty of Education at University Malaya. Good evening, Dr. Norlidah. Thank you for joining us on the show. The government has touted vocational education as a game changer for achieving inclusive economic growth. But I'm just wondering whether this claim has been backed by policy and by programs. I mean, has the TVET component of the education system been somewhat neglected in Malaysia?
All right. Thank you very much, Melisa and Sharaad, for having me in Consider This. Assalamualaikum and good evening. Malaysian TVET is advancing and has started to gain attention by the public. A number of studies outside Malaysia, such as in the developed countries, found that TVET graduates are still struggling to secure a job, even with a good qualification from the TVET institution. This is a similar case for Malaysia. Some graduates are still finding jobs and some ended up working in a totally different field. These studies reported that our TVET graduates are lacking in terms of their employability skills.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Norlidah, could you help us understand now who's at fault here, or what is the problem? Has it got to do with the curriculum or the skills that are being taught at the institutions not matching what's in the market, or is it that we have a market that is not growing in a direction that people had anticipated, that policymakers had anticipated, or even those who had vocational institutions thought that these would be the future skills that we need? Where's the mismatch?
Okay. Theoretically, the teaching and learning in TVET institutions are based on the concept of industry-based education. This is to develop students' mental, which refers to the foundation, and manual elements refers as application of job-specific skills, which in turn will enhance their employability. So developing specific mental and manual elements for a particular job is not easy, as the advancements of technology has demanded graduates to acquire more flexible skills. That is the reason why UNESCO 2015 recently highlights the importance of transversal skills for the employment.
What does that mean?
So in my opinion, a transversal skill is that, in my opinion, that other than enhancing the technical knowledge and skill development that are relevant to the current and future industry, the curriculum in Malaysian TVET should focusing on these developing transversal skills, such as technical communication skills and other relevant employability skills like information processing, technological, critical and creative, as well as entrepreneurship skills. So in the current pandemics, ICT has become a more important medium to business operation. So I firmly believe that empowering students' ICT skills is highly needed. This is not only relevant to the current situation, but also to realize that industrial revolution, which among is emphasized on industrial Internet of Things, additive manufacturing, artificial intelligence and new business models. So in answering this, our TVET system must move forward towards digitalization of its training system.
Norlidah, could you help us understand, in terms of the student population, who enrolls in vocational studies? Are these potentially one of the better students in the schooling system? Are they the most talented? Are we getting as many girls and individuals from marginalized communities into the TVET system? Do you have a sense of who's there in that system?
Okay, this is what happened in our system is that we have to make sure that the students, the public must understand that TVET is not a second-class education. So success stories, a better explanation on TVET pathways are needed to convince. Okay, the students, the parents and students must change their mindset that students students enrolling in the TVET education is not the second class. What do you call it? Second class. TVET is not a second class education.
Right. Okay, and you know the participate or the enrollment of students into TVET institutions, is that the main impediment or main challenge that TVET education providers are facing, or is it also a lack of investment, a lack of infrastructure, a lack of training in terms of how to teach TVET? What would you say on the side of TVET providers?
What is the greatest challenge is the mismatch between industry needs and TVET outcomes. This issue is not a challenge in Malaysia, but also across other countries in the world. So in my knowledge, the situation has affected our TVET graduates' employment. Studies such as Pandian and Narasoman in 2004, Ismail et al. 2011, and in fact the Ministry of Education 2015 explained that one of the contributing factors to this pressing issue is that there is a mismatch in the supply and demand of graduates, with employers reporting the graduate lack of requisite skills and attitude. The second impediment is that awareness on the relevancy and quality of Malaysian TVET is still not encouraging. So what makes TVET a bit behind is how we perceive it. For most of us, it's a second-class education. The preconceived notion of TVET as the last resort for lower achievers is hurting our TVET development. Not only that, but some of us are also skeptical of TVET path career, and even worse, some employers did not recognize TVET graduates' qualification.
Norlidah, is there an effort on the part of TVET institutions and people perhaps in the ministry overseeing this, and I understand there are several ministries involved in TVET education, to engage with employers? And I'm thinking of the backbone of the Malaysian economy, that's largely the SME sector, right? The small and medium-sized enterprises, of which there are literally tens of thousands of different enterprises. How can that conversation happen in a way that, would be reasonable and practical?
Okay, in addressing this issue, the relevant bodies need to constantly revise and ensure that the curriculum in TVET is relevant to the industry needs. Not only that, in my opinion, it is important to gather experts, industry players, to sit down and map the direction of our future industry. Right. Based on my experience as a consultant for the Ministry of Human Resources, this approach, which we call focus group discussion, is relevant to gather experts' opinion and to guide curriculum designing process. So with the current pandemics that has badly affected and shifted our industry, it is really important to understand the current market trends and demands, as well as the projection of what is needed for the future. So actually, this is what we call industry-based curriculum that we have to emphasize, with which settle the mismatch between industry and the TVET in the institution.
Okay, all right. Industry-based curriculum. I understand, Dr. Norlidah, you've also been appointed as the National TVET Technical Committee member by the Ministry of Education, and I'm wondering, looking at the structure of who provides TVET education and TVET services, the structure is bewildering to me because there's so many, it feels so fragmented, so many ministries, so many agencies, as Sharaad alluded to a little bit earlier. Do you think that the TVET sector could do with a little streamlining? Is that something that perhaps Malaysia needs to look at in terms of reforms?
Yeah, I was in the committee, and then I wish that if the task force can be continued. Actually, it has been stopped for a while, and I hope for the future. I mean, in future we can continue with the committee again. So, in my opinion, the main challenge for our TVET is to be constantly ready to the industry needs and changes. So I would like to share one study conducted by Dots and Madgava in 2014, in which they have presented the landscape of employment and its challenges based on comparison of 70 nations that are categorized into 8 clusters. Okay? So one of the most striking findings from this study is the shift of global markets demands from manufacturing to service sectors. So with the advancement of technology and global networking, service sector has accelerated and become a priority in most countries. So they noted that the shift has increased the unemployment rate. So the imbalanced quantity of workers needed with the demand of industry is a call of concern. So as I mentioned earlier, on one of the possible contributing factors is poor interaction between TVET curriculum developers, instructors and industry in designing a sound curriculum for TVET. So if we fail to address this problem, the UNESCO develops effort to improve the quality of education and youth employment through TVET institutions are far from reach. So therefore, we need to step back. So we can call this, reconsider this and identify how far we can implement the industry-based curriculum appropriately.
Norlidah,
so what I mean,
sorry to interrupt, but in the final minute or so that we have, could you, if you had one wish in order to shift the conversation and get things moving, what would you have happen? What would you implement immediately?
Okay, to solidify my point, I would encourage. I would wish networking and collaboration between the industry and TVET institution should be gained, so that the mismatch can be settled.
All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. We appreciate your time.
All right.
That's all we have for you on this episode of Consider This. But before we leave you tonight, a reminder, you can get the latest news and information on COVID-19 vaccines at astroawani.com and the Astro Awani app. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
We'll be back with you same time tomorrow. Till then, good night.